Hiya, and welcome. I'm Sis. I've played Final Fantasy XIV for 3 years, and I was always very curious about its MMO big brother of Final Fantasy XI. After the announcement of Echoes of Vana'diel Alliance Raid series for Final Fantasy XIV, I decided I would finally bite the bullet and play 11. Eventually, it took me until April this year to start the game, and even then I lasted about 2 weeks before getting burnt out by all of the systems and jank that this game has. The desire to come back to 11 hit me about a week before Dawn Trail Early Access started in late June, but I wasn't going to sub to two MMOs at the same time. And then Dawn Trail left me a bit miffed. My endgame activity of choice, which is hunts, is overcrowded, and I don't find a static for the raid tier. And here I am, Nation rank 6, and moving on to Chains of Promathia. I was tremendously helped on the start of my journey by Vicenarians and John, who loves flat women's videos on early game tips, and of course by the 1 to 19 guide on the Blue Garter wiki. They will all be linked down below. The 1 to 19 guide might be getting phased out by a new collaborative guide, but as it stands right now, this is the best standalone resource for the whole experience. I'm also linking a new simplified missions guide. Maybe you prefer it, maybe you won't. Hi, this is Editing Sis. They actually split up the guide and made a new one. It'll be linked, and I'll also link the 1 to 190 guide anyway. Have fun. This video, however, is more aimed towards people who have some hours in the game already. I have written it after completing the Nation rank 5 missions, and these are some things I've picked up along the way. Unity accolades can be vendored in the guild by buying prism powder from Unity NPCs. This isn't as lucrative as sparks into Echelon shields, but after leveling during the timed ROE objective gain EXP, I had so many Unity accolades it felt stupid to not use them. Sort your inventory. Okay, so John does explain this, but I didn't really get the message. I thought, how bad could it be? The answer is yes. Now, I aim to keep my inventory as clear as possible because nothing hurts more than losing an item on the field because you are out of inventory space. Of course, not everything you pick up is trash, so checking the wikis for what the item does or is used for is pretty important. FFXI Auction House really helps with figuring out what to vendor and what to sell to other players on the auction house or Bazaar. Bazaar is another way for you to sell your items to other players. You access your Bazaar from the main menu under Bazaar, and you can set the prices for items in your inventory. The price you set is for one item, so if there's a stack of multiple of the same item, the price you put will be for a single item, and people can buy just a single item from the stack. If you see this cute rucksack item icon next to someone's name, they are currently selling things on their Bazaar. If you have a new player icon, which is that big red question mark next to your name, that overrides the Bazaar icon. To show the Bazaar icon, you can go to the help desk menu, and under there, code config to cancel your new adventurer status. To see a player's Bazaar, you have to target them, check them, and open their wares from the menu. You can only Bazaar items when you are logged into the game and you need to be in the same zone as the person who wants to buy things. On Bahamut at least, the Bazaar market is pretty concentrated in Lower Juno, right next to Home Point 2. Some items can't be sold on the auction house, but they can be sold in the Bazaar. Finding a price for these items can be a bit tough, but FFXI auction house can help here as well by showing previous Bazaar price listings. Your artifact gear NM is really tough. So the 1 to 19 guide tells you to go get your artifact gear. You go and do the quests, you find a treasure coffer or two, you go fight the NM for your specific artifact gear quest. And it absolutely bonks you. I only learned after running the zone from Miser Murphy 3 times that these guys were done with as many people as you could muster back in the 75 cap days. Especially if you were around level 60, which is the level of the hat from this quest. Sometimes the guides leave stuff out. You can either level up a bit to around 65 or 70, or you can follow the advice from the next part. Don't be afraid to socialize. Now this one I'm especially guilty of. Someone's at the EXP camp I wanted to farm. I'm warping by. People say hi in my link shelf I've been working in for a week. I have no eyes. Someone is running around in the same dungeon I am, navigating the same route. Respectful distance. I am a person who's very bad at socializing in situations I'm uncomfortable in, which I would argue definitely includes a 22-year-old PS2 MMORPG. However, it's okay to not know things. How could you know this complicated web of systems from just reading the very little the game tells you, or bits the community thinks are important? Get into an open link shell, say good morning and hello, ignore the people trying to argue which Final Fantasy MMO is better because they are so different the question itself is flawed. There are countless stories of lifelong ties being made in this game. People have found friends and partners. Children have been born because of this game. Like any social encounter, you shouldn't expect to become best buddies for life the instant you say hello to someone. But you do have to start somewhere. Being nice doesn't cost you anything, and it can bring you so much in return. Hopefully a level 78 armor set, at least. Using Warp and EXP rings with macros. To use your ring, you have to equip it. You can make a macro to use it from your wardrobe too, and it looks like this. Same also works for the EXP ring of your choice, like this. Macros are your friends, and they aren't spooky or scary at all. Here's a link to the macro page on the Bulgar wiki. It has all the commands you can use. I do recommend making some macros for combat. Combat is so much nicer with macros, and I've barely even gotten started making them. Is your Unity trust missing? All the guides tell you to join a Unity, and you should. I personally picked up Ururus to unlock her as a healer trust. What tripped me was after I returned to the game after a couple months break, I no longer had access to her. The wikis told me that to regain access to her, I need to earn 5,000 Unity accolades in a single towing period, which is 1 week starting from the weekly reset at Japanese midnight on Sunday. But I quickly lost track of the amount I had collected. However, if you go to status, Unity, and Unity info, you can see your personal and your Unity's rankings. Don't worry about it too much. The only thing that really matters is the partial personal evaluations. 1 point in this evaluation is 1000 Unity accolades earned during this week, meaning once you hit 5 points, you can summon your Unity Trust again. Unity accolades can be earned from records of eminence objectives, so remember to check them often for stuff you can do. It's important to keep up with this because you lose access to the Unity Trust if you don't meet this requirement for a time. I don't really know how long, but I'm gonna aim to do this at least every other week. Cherish the journey. FF11 is an old game. FF11 is a very complicated game. FF11 doesn't tell you how it works. A lot of the information is in the wikis, but also a lot isn't. And sometimes it isn't explained well. And sometimes it's just plain incorrect. You can try to lessen the amount of tabs you have open on your browser by focusing on one task at a time as much as you can. You can also try using the simplified mission guide by Milsif on the Blue Water Wiki. I would also like to recommend Vicenarian's video on Final Fantasy XI story tips and the guide for new players, where they go over some ways of playing through the story. I am personally following the Rhapsodies of Vanadiel order, where when some progress through a specific expansion is required to continue Rhapsodies, I go and finish that expansion fully. So, after my rank 6 nation mission, I'm doing Chains of Promathia. Now, you might ask, sis, there's some Rhapsodies in between nation rank 6 and starting Chains. Why aren't you doing that? Well, the 1 to 19 guide tells me that there's a really tough level 80 fight in that I couldn't complete at around level 60 that I was when I was getting rank 6. So I decided to skip it for now. While I do think it might be better to focus on one storyline at a time, after level 60 or so, so much content starts opening up to you while so much of it is still out of reach, and it can feel very overwhelming. Final Fantasy XI can be a lonely game, especially when you go to Reddit and read old players reminiscing about Walcurm parties, or running to Juno, or people talk about endgame content and it's just a barrage of abbreviations you have no clue about. However, it's your journey, and you should cherish every step. In Final Fantasy XI, you have the choice of what you want to do. Guides are just that, guides. I firmly believe choosing something for yourself is more important than following an optimal route someone's already come up with. I've been following the broad strokes of the 1 to 119 guide and the Rhapsodies order of expansion storylines. But this game is much more than that. It's the quiet moments when you run in a zone. It's the thrill of checking a monster to see if it will fuck you up. Getting some lockstyle pieces to look good. There's really no way to make a guide for exploration. So I just recommend doing some exploration just for yourself. Maybe go to the Sanctuary of Sita and enjoy the tombs. Maybe go hunt some notorious monsters. Your ROE definitely has objectives for killing specific ones. Go on an airship or a ferry, at least once. I'm not telling you to never use your warp ring ever again, but sometimes it's nicer to just mount up and traverse. I feel like the community is understandably focused around the very start or the very end. But from my time in Final Fantasy XIV, I learned that the experiences aren't simply what you are left with at the end. It's all the things you do to get there that really matters. So this is for the people who are somewhere in the middle. Not quite new, but still somewhere on the journey. I started writing this script just barely after beating the rank 5 nation mission, and a lot of the systems still felt foreign and mysterious to me. It's now about a week later, and I feel like I'm starting to get it. Don't get me wrong, I still have no idea what dynamis or abyssa or Asia zones actually are, but I've begun bazaaring things that I can't sell on the auction house or that I just simply can't fit into the 7 sale slots. There are so many options for me to tackle every time I log into the game, and they no longer feel overwhelming to me. Especially since I know I can ask people to help me out should I ever need it. The barrier to entry is very high, compared to Final Fantasy XIV at least. But I've really enjoyed it. Like with every game, if you don't enjoy playing it, you should take a break and come back if you feel like it. With 20 years of content to catch up on, does it really matter if you aren't at the end game right this very second? You are already behind. Embrace the journey to get there, or as far as you personally want. Some special thanks here at the end go to the Brigade link show on Bahamut. Thank you guys for being so nice and helpful to new players. And also thanks to my Final Fantasy XIV clowns. You know who you are. And to Slane, the old man who I keep bullying by showing all of the quality of life changes to this game. If you're on Bahamut, feel free to come say hi to me. Don't get discouraged if I don't reply. I'm probably AFK bazaaring things in Port Juno again. Toodles!